What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. And on this channel, I talk about a lot of different types of games. But every once in a while, I just think, I wonder what would happen if you took, like, say, Ironsworn, and you mixed it with, say, Cthulhu, with just a little bit of the Drifter thrown in.
Stop smoking scrolls.
What you would probably come up with is this. This is Legacy of Cthulhu. This is a game that was shared with me this past week, and I was so excited about it when I read it. I read the entire book in the first 24 hours that I had it. And I think that the only reason that I didn't do a video on it last week is because I wanted to give it more time to breathe and to give it a fair shake. This game is absolutely phenomenal. So without further ado, let's look at the Legacy of Cthulhu.
What's in the box?
And this is what that madness looks like on the table. It's very simple. It doesn't take up much space. You only need one die to play the game. Everything is done with a D10. Your character sheet has everything that you need on it to play. Everything is based off of a simple action system where the target number is always going to be 10, and you're going to roll a D10 plus one of your three stats, which is body, presence, and mind. Body is going to be anything athletic or requiring coordination. Presence is going to be anything using your personality, and mind is going to be anything with intelligence. You've got three hit point type resources. You've got actual hit points for physical damage. You've got stance, which is going to be like social damage, basically. And then you've got willpower, which is going to be sanity, more or less.
Emotional damage!
You've got some other resources in your food, your medicine, and your ammo. This is a starting character here. But there's another part of this that I haven't mentioned yet, which is your shelter, which is a big part of this game. You get a shelter that you get to trick out from the beginning of the game that's got its own defense stat and its own number of spaces that you can upgrade it and the technology level right there. And I've chosen some upgrades. It's got an infirmary and electricity and a weapon system and a water collector to build up my food supplies. And then I have to pick a spot on one of the maps. There's several included maps that are based upon different locations from the mythos, or there's some famous cities in there as well. Each one of these different tiles has a different definition, and each one of them is going to have their own set of separate encounter tables based on the tile that you are in. But they also affect your starting shelter statistics. If you choose a shelter that's underground, for example, you get some extra defense because it's hardened. Whereas some of the others have less space or technology. The shelter actually underground does have less space to offset the extra defense. But you start out in your shelter, and then different actions take different amounts of time. And you just want to make sure that you get back to your shelter before the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a check. And on a 1 or a 2, then you could potentially have a horde attack.
Here there be monsters.
And if you don't have the protection of your bunker, it's going to be a bad day. Now, you may notice that my character sheet is laminated, just like the map is. There's a reason for that, because this game is quite deadly. This is The Legacy of Cthulhu by Minds Vision Games, and it's written by J.M. Pimentel and Bruno Sadler. I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. It seems like I love these Brazilian game designers, but I do struggle to pronounce Portuguese names. So forgive me for that, but you're going to be happy that you stuck around to listen to me butcher those names after you see what this game has to offer. So Last week I got an email from Mind's Vision, and they just mentioned that they liked watching the channel and they enjoyed some of my content, and they wanted to share some of their content with me.
Surprise!
And I get a few of these a month and didn't think a whole lot of it. I always appreciate folks reaching out, but I did not expect to be so wowed by what they sent me. So this game is kind of like if you took Ironsworn and the Drifter, you placed it in the Call of Cthulhu universe, and then you smashed that together with The Walking Dead. This is a post-arrival of the mythos creatures of the old ones. So mechanically, it's very simple. Everything is based on a D10 plus stat, and then you add 2 if the action you are taking is one that you're skilled in. You want to get a 10. The target number is always going to be 10. And so similar to Savage Worlds, the target number is always 4. The target number is always 10. Anything that is above 10 on your roll is going to be a power bonus of the difference. So if I rolled an 11, that's a power bonus of 1. If I rolled a 15, that's a power bonus of 5. So like in combat, you're going to add that amount to your damage. In social combat, you're going to add that to the amount that you subtract from your opponent's stance, and so on and so forth. The game is kind of designed in a manner similar to Ironsworn in that it is a solo, co-op, or GM'd game, all with the same system. There's oracles in here. There's tons and tons of charts, which I will share some of with you later. And as far as the parts that are like the Drifter, there are procedural terrain-based encounters, and there are daily actions that you can take, which are going to inform how the game plays out. You also have a very nice hex map based on which of the areas of the world you're going to be playing in, or they actually have the rules to create your own as well. They have spells in this that are going to be very similar to other games that are mythos related. And then they have a bestiary that's going to have a lot of the same beasties that you're used to from Call of Cthulhu, but there's a lot more modern additions in there too, a lot more human mortal type additions. There's a heavy focus on the fortification creation and modification, very much so like a lot of the Free League games have that I enjoy so much. And then there's also numerous pre-built locations. We'll get to some of those later. And the rules to create your own are very simple as well. So while my natural tendency was to go right to Arkham, I am tempted to go ahead and build something that is a little bit closer to home as well. Now, because this is post arrival of the old one's timeline, the game is going to play quite differently than most Cthulhu-based games. Typically, in a Cthulhu game, you're trying to prevent the arrival. You're trying to stop the cultists from summoning the old ones, and if they do, the world's going to end. Well, too late. The world is already ending. So in this timeline, the old ones have arrived, and they started wiping out humanity, but lucky for humanity, they couldn't decide who was in charge. So all of the old ones are battling each other and trying to fight for supremacy over this little rock that we're all living on. And that's the only thing that's keeping them from focusing on destroying the few that are left of us. Now, when you throw in that also some of those few remaining people are now crazies or humans that have succumbed to the madness, that really throws in some elements that reminded me of The Walking Dead. You know, post-apocalyptic world, survival is a key element, resource management, and then you add in the fact that your one of your biggest opponents is going to be mankind. And this kind of gives you an idea of the volume of the book. It's not a huge book. It's only about 150, 160 pages total, but it's got a lot of content in there. And actually, I really enjoyed the story at the beginning, Who Killed Eleanor. It really kind of builds a sort of tension that is inherent to this world, and it gets you in the mood for a post-arrival Old Ones apocalypse type of game. But then you move on, super simple character creation process. You pick a few stats, you pick a few skills, you pick some items, and then you get a couple of random rolls for some additional loot. There are a nice list of spells in there, and if you have the Arcana skill, you're going to get to use some of those, though they could drive you nuts, as should be the case in any Cthulhu game. Then there's a nice section on building your shelter. The rules, like I said, very simple. Roll a d10, add your stat, if you got the skill, you add 2, and then you try to hit a 10. It does use advantage and disadvantage, just like D&D 5e. The examples of play are very good. There are a few issues that I noticed with the translation. English is not the native language to the authors here, I believe. And there's a couple of times that peek through, but nothing that's distracting. There's just a couple of kind of odd word choices, but it's very easy to parse out what they meant. Then you get into all the tables. There's some really cool, crazy tables for all of the different types of terrain, and then the special scenario type tiles as well, like the military base or the hospital. And then at the end, there is a separate section that has an oracle, and the oracle is quite good. It's very simple. When you combine it with all of the random tables for content generation and the rest of the game, you've really got something here. Then towards the end of the book here, we have 9 different cities that are pre-built. They all have their own hex map. They all have their own specific details that you can explore. You've got a ton of different enemies to fight. From page 121 to page 140 is all different beasties. And yes, you do see some of the old ones in there as well, because those will show up from time to time. You're not going to survive those encounters, though. Several really great art pieces in this book. I didn't really have that expectation coming in. I assume that this is a smaller publisher. I had not heard of them until now, but I guarantee you that I will hear more about them in the future, because I will be in on their next Kickstarter. I took a look, and there is a limited collector's edition version of this book, and I will be getting one of those. I'm going to be buying one of those if they do a reprint of this bad boy. But that being said, there are several of these different pieces of art. There's lots of callbacks to actual Lovecraft works, and throughout the book, you're going to be treated to the same quality of art and writing and just general, ambiance, theming of the game. So you get a couple of pages to create your characters. You get a nice selection of different equipment. You have some different things to choose from there. More artwork. Got some spells here. I'm going to bounce over and show you some of the rules on the shelters. These are some of the different choices that you have, and it's based on the type of tile that you build your shelter on, assuming that if you build underground, you're going to have access to a more fortified shelter, so on and so forth. All the rules for the game basically fit on a couple of pages. There are rules for hunger and insanity. They basically are different sides of the same coin. And then there's a couple pages of gameplay examples. And then you get into all of the tables that go with the different tiles that you're going to be using as you travel through your day, because you're going to roll encounters on these every time that you travel to one of the tiles. And one of the ones that I noticed was on the hospital page, number 6 on the first one. You find a door locked with a chain where it says in blood, "Don't open, dead inside." So Walking Dead fans are going to appreciate that. And you get more art and more tables. So overall, this game is really a nice toolkit. If you are going to just use this book as a content generator for stories or adventures for your own games using other systems, I think it would be well worth the price just for that. So here is the hex map of Arkham, and I think it's only appropriate that would be where I would end this video and give you my final thoughts on this wonderful, wonderful game. So, as you can tell from all of my flowery speech, this is right up my alley. This uses simple gameplay mechanics to accomplish world building and storytelling without getting too muddled down in the specifics of, well, you should have a 20% better chance to do this or a 10% better chance to do that. Nope, this pretty much sticks to, you get a 10, you get the success. You get under a 10, you failed. The game is very much inspired by several of the games that I love already. Like I said, there's definitely some DNA from Ironsworn in the way that it was designed from the ground up to be played as solo, cooperative, or with a GM. There's a lot of influence from games like The Drifter, with the way that the hex crawl works with the tables and the different types of terrain. And then there's also obviously a lot of influence from Call of Cthulhu and other mythos-based games. This is a great game that you could play for 30 minutes or an hour, put away, and then go back to work another day. So I think that if you're into horror games, if you're into solo RPGs, if you enjoy procedural type games with low bookkeep, then this is going to be a game that you can enjoy. Another thing that I do like about this is it does seem to be designed well to play without a physical copy. That's one of my critiques that I did have, I'm not sure if I shared it on the video or not. I felt like with the Drifter, I had to have a physical copy. I didn't want to bounce back and forth as much on the PDF. But with this one, I definitely felt like the tables were set up in such a way that I wasn't jumping as much through the book playing, and I think that this was set up a little bit better, that I didn't have to have the physical copy, though like I said, the physical copy does look gorgeous. So if you get a chance, check this game out. This is The Legacy of Cthulhu by Minds Vision Games, and I'm certainly going to be checking out their other games, and like I said, I'm definitely going to be supporting them the next time I see them up on Kickstarter. But until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.
Well, bye.